Hey, welcome back to my channel, and today a few people in my Discord have been requesting like how raid advice, so I'm posting my really lazy person's guide to PvPing hell raid. The whole point of this video is that we're using units that are pretty much geared for PvP or on like really bozo gear, and so you don't have to regear anything. So we're doing the easier bosses first. So the first boss is like top right, or the red boss. Basically, we're using an effectiveness Ida, just so we can strip buffs and land death breaks or something. You can use like a Ran or something in its place. We have this like incredibly bozo Amelia. She's just there to push things up and like cleanse and stuff. You can replace her with like any blue soul weaver. Angelic Montmorency here is like, this unit can't be replaced though. She's free and like a lot of people have her, so that's nice. And our main DPS and main way to cheese is the shoe unit. We basically skip a lot of the boss because we just death break and then we S1, S2 foosh and then phase it, which is pretty nice. And yeah, the units are like pretty much like set in stone. You can substitute like Ida plus the thing, but shoe is pretty necessary, but a lot of people have her built. We go camping, we press random buttons because camping is like fucking some bullshit mechanic that is in the game for some reason. And we go to the boss, and this boss is really easy. What we do is we fish for death breaks with Ida S1, and then we just push up shoe when they're death broken, and then fish for the S1, S2 foosh. Pressing S3 is also not bad because it gives like an extra counter chance against the boss, which can get some added DPS in. But as you saw in the builds, both your DPSs should be on Daydream Joker, and your Ida or Ran. Like, you should use one of these. You should use one of the two. They don't actually need to be on damage. Like, you can just swap your speeds, like your normal Ida to an F ring, and then basically you will have one that's ready for this boss, and that's only swapping one piece of gear, which isn't that expensive. And if you don't have a 300 speed Ran, that's perfectly fine. You can just run a 250 Ran with similar stats as the Ida I'm using in this video. That's also perfectly fine. You use DDJ just to speed things up a little bit. But a lot of this battle is just fishing for the shoe S1, S2 fooshes. You just spam A Momo, S2 off cooldown, and basically the boss does their shit. Just try not to attack the boss directly when they have a debuff on. And we do not use Ida's S3 unless we have to. And by what I mean we have to, you're about to see here, my Ida, even with the effectiveness, gets the strip resisted, so it resists the strip on the barrier and stealth, which kind of sucks. And we want to remove this barrier as soon as possible just because it heals the boss if they are stealth at the end of the turn or the beginning of their turn or something. And that just draws out the battle, and I have things to do. So just so we can get this barrier off, we're going to S3, but like ideally your Ida would have stripped. Just know that if you use Arky or whatever, this boss takes reduced damage from them, so you can't actually use them to get rid of the barrier, which kind of sucks. But yeah, I am here to tell you that you should do hell raid. I know a bunch of people don't because they're lazy, but it does give a lot of stuff. Like, some of the gear is like really cracked, and especially since like the 88 reset gear is coming up, like why not, man? And it's always nice to get like the pen set neck too. And we get the death break here, and you're about to see like how we can push phase. Like, even though my shoe is on like kind of bozo gear, like I'm not, is it on pen gear? Like, I don't know, I just AFK on that gear, but we're able to get a counter and then foosh, which basically pushes the boss into the final phase, and it's been like 2 seconds. So once the boss is in the final phase, they're gonna do something like they're gonna do whatever you just saw here, and they're going to also apply injury. My Ida lands a death break, but the mobs unfortunately cleanse it, but it doesn't even matter. Like, this is unlucky. You don't want, this is why you don't want to attack the boss with a debuff on, but it doesn't even matter because you can just soul burn shoe. And if you have a full bar of souls, that's 5 attacks to just fish for a S1, S2. And if you get like 2 or 3, which is like pretty good odds, since like 40%, like you basically just skipped it because you can just push up with Amelia and then finish it off with the last one. You got enough fooshes that I'm able to just secure it with an S2, and then I'm gonna be a good E7 player and then basically like AFK and try to clear out as much as my stamina allows. This is optional, but like, again, it's a lot of charms, and especially with the Rift, charms are at an all-time scarcity, so I would recommend you do it. But like, Wow, PvE content. We're having so much fun. Ooh, hooray. But yeah. Oh, I think I forgot to mention, but I'm trying to make this video so like it uses the least amount of ML5s as possible. So there'll all be RGB 5s. There'll be a lot of specially changed units, but there'll be a few units that you can't replace, which I can't really help. Since a lot of these teams require very specific units, so take that up with Smilegate. We get a garbage drop, which is like, okay, it's fucking hell raid, I guess. Spent a bunch of time doing that for what? We do get a bunch of charms though, and an artifact charm, which I'm not too upset about, honestly. And we are going to move on to the next boss. And the next boss is B, which is like bottom right. This is the team we're using here. You can replace a few things on this team. Like you can replace Vivian with like Rowana if you want. This Destina needs to be able to reliably resist the bees from Karkanis, the Juleeve Council. So it needs to be like around 200 ER. The Hawk is very bozo, so like you can copy that super easily. Landy does not need to be this fast. This can be your any regular Landy. Just put her on Bloodstone. And this Vivian is on her Cleanse E, but again, this can be Rowana with Stella Harpa. I just prefer Vivian just because she helps clear speed up. We press random buttons during camping. Hooray. We move on with our life. There aren't many replacements you can do, but you can obviously replace like any of the DPSs with Green Lilius. Maybe not Zahak, but you can replace Landy with Green Lilius or like even Vivian, and it speeds up your run a lot. But I do not have a Green Lilius geared, so unfortunately we're just running with the team we have. This boss is not very complicated. Just try not to have poisons on yourself. Save the Hawk S2 to cleanse poisons. And you can use Vivian's S3 to cleanse if she needs to, but the way this boss works is that when they attack, they apply the poison and then strip. So you have like a few grace turns with Vivian's buff since immunity's in the middle of the buffs she adds to your team. So we have free turns of like getting attacked for free. That doesn't matter. I'm just soul burning here just to speed things up. Zahak should be on DDJ. Green Lilius or other DPSs can be on different artifacts, like Landy should still be on Bloodstone, but Zahak himself should be on DDJ, just because this boss is not immune to damage proportional health, which is really nice. Oh yeah, the Guardians don't really matter because a lot of the times you're not using the Guardians themselves, but the Guardian can be used in this boss as an emergency panic button, but near the end, you don't really get souls to use it, and you really shouldn't be in a place where you should be, you know, desperate. And one tip I have for this boss is that you should try to cycle Destina's S3 to match the cooldown of the bosses, just because if they apply unable to be healed and your team starts getting venomed, your team is going to die really fast. So just boost Destina up while you can. Like these bozo bees also apply venom, but it's fine because like Landy push and stuff, and you should have enough damage to like face this like pretty easily. Boom, we're in second phase. It's more the same. This boss has 3 phases where it does like 2 splitting things, and only the third phase has anything special. But we're gonna continue with our like bozo, hit the boss, the damage sponge. Yay, we're having fun. We boost up Destina because again, we want to match her S3 cooldown to the bosses. We can also soul burn Zahaks just to increase the damage, but like it only speeds it up marginally. And souls are kind of hard to come across in this boss, so it's not like the best idea. We use the Hawk's S2 to cleanse ourselves, press S3 for more damage. It's like very, very straightforward. Like this is why top right and bottom right are my favorite bosses, just because they're like pretty straightforward, not too complicated, very easy to do. But yeah, we press all our buttons. The boss phases. Oh no, the boss presses S3, and then we have our Destina S3 because we boosted up Destina to match the cooldown, so that's pretty good. We basically ignore all the negative consequences of that. Hopefully Vivian S3 is coming up soon. Oh no, it's not because I used it. But since Destina gets a lot of the aggro, we should be pretty fine. And now I just don't want to spread venom, so we're gonna boost up Zahak and cleanse from him. And now that Zahak has his S2 cleanse, we're like safe, but we actually phase, which is pretty nice. And my Landy is not on 100% crit. She's on like 99% crit or something, but you'll see her miss crit like 5 times in this run for some reason. But again, even with the last video, there was a lot of, not the last video, the last boss, there's a lot of things that went wrong, but I'm showing you that with these comps, they're like pretty fail-safe, although they might take you a bit longer than the optimized teams. Like, I do know that your teams could obviously be optimized better, but like, do I want to gear my whole account for this not this rift shit, this hell raid stuff? Like, no. So we're just gonna make do with what we have, you know? We phase the boss, and in the last phase, basically his only gimmick is that, like, you see that like smiley face on the top left. If you let him take too many turns without soul burning, he'll get enraged and get more attack and speed, which is obviously not great. So just try to soul burn your Zahak off cooldown, and you were gonna do that anyway just because this shit takes way too fucking long. And I decided to soul burn Destina here just because my team is low, but again, like, it was optional. Like, I don't think I was gonna fail at all. At this point, we basically have way too much damage and a lot of cycling. Landy bricks her crit again. Great job, Landy, you did it. We have Destina's skills up just as the boss's S3 is coming along. We save the Hawk S2 to cleanse, like we've been doing this whole video, and blah 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 blah. Isn't this content fun? So, like, as you can see, like, a lot of it's like pretty easy. Like, I would highly recommend that you do this for gear. We use Destina's S3 to cycle it, and it's pretty good. Like, and you get a lot of good gear. Okay, you have the potential to get a lot of good gear. I don't know about in practice, but like in theory, like, you could, you know. But we're basically at the end. I'm not too focused about cleansing off the venoms anymore. I basically just want to push up Zahak just so he can finish off the boss with Landy. Like, near the end, you don't need to cleanse it off because like the boss is gonna die. But Landy fails me yet again. So you could improve this team. Like, if you had a slower, higher damage Landy, that would obviously be better. Or like Green Lilius just really simplifies the run. I'm just gonna skip the backlog of farming. We basically get garbage from the boss again. Like, this ring could be okay, but like on Bryceria, I guess. But that's only if I like max roll everything. So like, I'll roll it later, but the other pieces are pretty garbage. We do get a Galaxy bookmark though, which is pretty nice. That revenge piece is not that great, but like, maybe I'll think about rolling it in the future. We'll see. Anyway, we're making our way to the next boss, which is going to be Vera, which is also known as bottom left. And this team requires a full team of red units for some reason. I forgot why. Like, I read the reason somewhere, but like, I'm not intelligent enough to know how to read, so we're just gonna parrot what other people do. This Araz is the bozo. This is a bozo, very bozo gear. This Sage, not Sage Ball. This Ball and Cezanne is also on really bozo gear. They just need effectiveness. Like, any other damage stats is optional. We have Omega damage Mercedes. Mercedes is free to play. Everyone has her. Everyone has imprints for her. And she just needs damage. And we have my Rift Hazel. And Hazel is BIS. If you do not have her, you should SC her because she's good for Rift anyway. Anyway, she's also on Idol's Cheer for Rift, but you can put her on like any regular Soul Weaver artifact. Like, it really does not matter. But once you get into the boss, this boss is also very straightforward, which is why I like it. In the first phase, like, this is what it's called, first phase, you can only AoE attack when the boss has like little eggs and shit around. And yeah, that's it. You just have to kill the eggs. If the boss gets attacked too many times, it will take an extra turn and attack, but again, it is very inconsequential. Our Omega damage Mercedes isn't even that high damage, if I'm being really honest, is easily able to clear the eggs just because, you know, advantageous element. Then you basically just hit the boss until it dies, like HP sponge stuff. This boss is very simple, and you will come to appreciate it when you go to the next few bosses because they're really annoying. Just press all your buttons. There's no cooldowns to save. You want to save souls to ideally S2 spam on Era, so we will not be using the Guardian in this fight either, but you could if you wanted to. I just, like, you know, why? We save Ball and Cezanne's S3 because we're about to phase them. And the debuffs will get cleansed off anyway, but with Edica Scepter, we honestly do cycle very quickly. You can replace Ball with like Tenebria or something, but you know, they are RGBs, and you should have one copy of every 5-star because, like, come on guys, this is a gacha game, you need a Pokédex. But in the second phase, it is very simple. There is nothing too special. The little cockroaches on the left of the boss will get a CR push every time you hit the boss, but it doesn't really matter because they just like push back your units and stuff. But it like it's not that bad, you know what I mean? It's just a DPS check, and this phase is really squishy. And just try to hit the boss before their like ultimate timer cools down, because I think if they hatch, they get like a bunch of buff stats. But I've literally never had a run that went that badly to the point where the boss res. Like, look at how much this S2 is doing with a Gab and Death Break. But yeah, especially with the speed down buff, you should be able to cycle circles around this boss. You press your buttons, do damage. And with the next Aros S2 dual attack, we should be able to kill it. We S1 something else with Hazel because she's not doing damage anyway. But we quickly are able to phase Vera, and I think we got hit because we proc Magic for Friends for fun. But in the third phase, basically the boss takes extra damage if you hit them with counterattacks or extra damage, but we don't really have a lot of those. And so what we want to do here is we want to Aros S1 and try to strip off the immunity buff, and then we just do the same thing where we like Death Break with like Tenebria or Ball and Cezanne or whatever, and then just control the boss down. You can kill these eggs too. I would recommend it just because I think they give the boss a damage reduction, but like again, look how squishy they are. To our Mercedes dies to an S3 Magic for Friends even with attack down. All we need to do is go for a strip onto the boss, and we should be Bingus Chillingus. Mascot Hazel, like look how much work she's putting in. She's cleansing the team. We get a cleanse, so we're able to have these debuffs that stick. These debuffs can get 15% in, but like again, they just prolong the run. You shouldn't be able to fail with a comp like this. Like my gear is not that special, especially on... No, just in general. They're not that special for these units. And then you can soul burn here just because I had an excess of souls. And I just wanted to speed it up. I wouldn't recommend trying to kill the cockroaches because I think they just get incapacitated and come back. So don't bother wasting your time there. Aros and whatever, they can get CC'd because they have no ER, but it's fine because the Idol's Cheer plus S2 allow Mercedes to cycle very, very quickly. So it shouldn't be too much of an issue, even if they do get pushed back. Like, we get a lot of free damage just by Mercedes, and then since the boss gets increased damage, it just compounds over time. And Sage Ball, not Sage Ball, RGB Sage Ball gets Edica Scepter, so we're able to constantly cycle our buffs and stuff. And yeah, like the boss summons its like little crotch goblins again, but it's like very simple. Like this boss is really nice. I think the best drop from this boss is an injury ring that I have never gotten yet, which kind of sucks, but maybe one day. And look, boom, the boss is done. You're free to go back and farm like all the little mobs and stuff for the charms. We get another bad drop. It's not the worst, but it's not the best from this boss, which kind of sucks. But whatever. Surely one of these bosses has to give us greater fallen hero gear. And now that we're done the first 3 bosses, we're entering the really, really annoying territory of Nightmare Raid bosses. Now we're doing top left, which is... I forgot the name. We're just going to call it top left. But this boss fight is not hard. It's just very slow. It's just very, very, very slow. So this carrot is an effectiveness carrot that I use for PvP sometimes, but it's on Edica Scepter just to cycle S3s. I would highly recommend that you run effectiveness on your carrot just because having speed down on the boss gives you a lot longer of a window to actually start attacking the boss. My Edward is on Bozo gear. This is my PvP Stenny, except it's on Kaladra because we're doing PvE content. And this Acades is also on Bozo gear, so... This Acades also does not need real ER because you only need her to press emergency heal here and there. Like, she honestly could just be like faster with like no ER if you wanted. But that's it. Her EE also does not very matter too much just because we're running like a random heal already. That doesn't matter. But this is very straightforward. It just takes a while to get to the boss because this boss requires some very, very annoying mechanics. Blah, blah, blah. Camping, blah, blah, blah. We just press random buttons because we don't know what we're doing. We go into the boss, and hooray, we turn off auto. And so what we have to do is we have to debuff the front 2 minions with 2 of the same debuff. And that is all going to come from Carrot. And especially with Soul Burning and Edict Scepter, we should be able to cycle it reliably. And I know Steny is an ML5, but most people are picking Steny from the ML connections anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. But you can easily replace her with like SSB, Lone Crescent Bellona, a Sylvan Sage Vivian that's full damage or anything. And yeah, that's basically it. We basically just hit the boss. We don't hit the boss. We hit the mobs, because one thing to keep in mind is that these mobs in the front will heal the lowest health thing, whether that's the boss or another spider. So you always want to have spiders that are higher or lower health than the boss. But other than that, the fight is just really straightforward. It's just really boring. You just kill the spiders, and you see how the boss is holding ult. The boss will only ult when there's no other spiders on the field. So you just get stuck in these infinite loops of like the boss needs to die, but we get resisted on a fucking spider or something. So the round takes longer than it should. Katie's is just doing her S2, S3 combo on herself non-stop. Steny's just DPSing down the spiders. I used to run down Silverblade Araminta in this Steny slot, but then I just found out the runs to just be like incredibly slow, and I could not handle that mentally. So we're trying this comp out, and it is faster, but it's still slow. I know one of my friends does like a full DPS comp with like a Dizzy, but I also didn't want to gear a Dizzy for this. So this is what we're doing today. And if you haven't checked by the length of this video, Queen and this thing just take up so much of my time. It's mostly this thing. Queen didn't even take that long. It's mostly this thing. But once we're at the boss, we soul burn Carrot here because we want to cycle S3s as fast as possible. And we also want to fish for S1 slowdowns on the boss, because S1 slowdowns on the boss just allow for Steny to take extra turns, which is a net DPS increase. We also soul burn Edward just so we can have increased DPS, but like his gear is kind of shit, so he's not going to be doing too much damage anyway. But once you're in this position, you just brain dead autopilot this. I'm like, oh, we're landing burns on spiders. And then just hitting the boss with Steny. You can soul burn to speed it up, but like you're gonna be here for a while. All in all of Nightmare Raid does take me 2 hours, but like an hour of that is just from me going back and farming like the labyrinth. Like that's an optional step, but I do highly recommend it because I think there's a chance of getting like the red artifact charms, which is pretty rare. And like it's auto, it's not like you're actually like attentively doing anything, so I would highly recommend it. You can use the Katie skills when the boss is in this mode just to cycle souls. I just didn't for some reason. But we enter another one of the spider phases and blah blah blah. We soul burn, fish for slowdown. Ooh, we soul burn Edward into spiders. Like I really hate this boss. We just raw dog the S3 to get rid of the slowdown, the speed down. And then we phase the boss at like 40%. And the boss doesn't enrage or anything. He just resets his timers and then heals the spiders to full. So the boss just heals up a bit, which is really fucking annoying. Because Edicus did not proc on my Carrot, so we're unable to actually S3 and start DPSing down the spiders. So the boss does get a heal. He gets several heals, but it's fine. It just prolongs the run. Yeah, like you see, like Edward doesn't need to be Edward either. Like he can be like anything like a Tywin or something, like a debuff cleanser. But maybe a Tywin could speed up the runs, but that's an ML5. Like it could be anything. Like it could even be like Fire Lilius if you wanted to. Just because we have a source of reliable healing and stuff. Okay, this run's going on. It's gonna go on for a while, so I'm just gonna go take a water break. If you hear me drinking water in the background, call it ASMR. Okay, I am back from that water break, but this fight is still going on because of course it is. But yeah, this team is safe. Like, it should never fail. It just takes forever just because the way that this boss is designed in like typical 200 years fashion. Oh, I guess this is not Riot Games, but it still takes forever. But I think I have to go to another phase because I don't think my steady has enough damage to actually kill the boss here, which is like, oh my god, I'm losing my mind. I don't want to carry S3 because it's obvious that we're going to need another phase, so the boss is basically almost dead, but you can choose to bring Arky here actually, because I think this boss does take percent health damage, I think, but like Soul Burning Stunning does like basically the same thing, so the Guardian is not very important here. You just go in, press buttons, get bad gear, leave, and do it again. You know what I mean? I'm kidding. Anyway, we enter S3. We not enter S3. We enter this phase of the boss for like the nth time, which is very, very exciting stuff. And basically, when the boss is low enough, you can just kind of ignore all the spiders, especially if they're far back of the CR bar, because you should be able to do enough damage to outcycle them. And luckily, my Senny does outspeed the stupid spider, so we're able to kill this Devourer, Arahakan, or whatever. And get another bad piece of gear for our troubles. Not the worst gear, but it's still pretty bad, if I'm being honest. And that means the last thing left is the Queen. Oh, we're using this team for Queen, which is basically, you know, your standard team, except we use Stenny and Landy in other places, so we just use another single target DPS. This is your very standard Thomas area combo. The backline is SC Arrow, just because she's SC and she's free. You just have her on F ring, so you change one piece of gear. And this is my PvP Little Queen Charlotte. You can use the slower Hellcutter Little Queen Charlotte. I heard that one works. I just wanted to use my Fringe LQC just because it's what I had geared, but if I had to do it again, I would put her on a little bit more damage and take her off Elspeth because it messes with speed tuning. And this is the longest leg of the Hell Ray just because LQC making her way to the boss takes forever. Maybe I should put Aiden on this, but my Aiden's on lifesteal, so it doesn't do enough damage, I think. But it's fine. This is mostly auto anyway. You basically just press auto when turn Isarius goes off, and near the end you turn Thomas goes off. Excuse me. So we head into boss with everything up. And it's pretty much straightforward. Like, you S1 here with Tama. Technically, your Isarius is supposed to be faster than your Tama, but I think I need this Tama speed tuning for something else I was doing, so I didn't want to change gear, but like, it's doable. It's just a little sketch. You press S3 with Tamarin, woohoo, idle form. You press S2, boost up. And so, if you're running these non-Stenny or Landy comps, what you want to do is you want to kill these two bees in the front. So you first go for the strip here with Tamarin, which she obviously bricks, because why would she not brick the strip even though she has like 100 effectiveness, which is basically what you need for this boss. But that's fine. We hold the LQC S3 because they're not death broken. We go for the arrow S3 onto Queen. We have like 120 effectiveness on this thing, so even without the F buff, we're fine. In hindsight, I think I should have just S3'd one of the bees, but I S3 the boss to get unbuffable on it, just because we can S3 the other mobs, the S1 soul burn the other mobs when we have to. But get ready to just see a lot of 15% on this boss, even though my Sari has more than enough effectiveness to actually land her debuffs. We're basically just spamming, and I get impatient, and since my LQC has attack buff, we soul burn to help her cycle. We S3 the bees, the Queen takes splash damage, and basically this is like a tank and spank where you're basically like, ooh, we're doing PvE content, hooray. You can honestly reset LQC or Tamarin. Tamarin kind of cycles fast enough that she shouldn't need it, but I just did it because I felt like it. Tama goes into idle form. We press our buttons onto one of the bees, but one shortcoming of this French LQC build is she lacks a lot of damage to the other LQC build just because she has a lot of speed. Like she has like 50 speed, the other LQC doesn't. And she runs Elf's Fist instead of Hull Cutter, which kind of results in a net loss of damage. The other B resists Ice Area. Just get me out of here already. But it's fine. Like, again, this boss shouldn't be failable. It just takes way too long. I was thinking about soul burning S3, but I wanted this B to actually be death broken and for me to have attack buff. We S1 the boss. Like, we're just working on these Bs just to get them out of my face. Like, ugh. But Queen actually has two good drops, if I remember correctly. Queen has a good chest and a good boot. And the boot is like 45 ES pre-enhanced, so it's unbrickable. In theory, I bricked mine, so like, you know, but like in theory it's unbreakable. But basically this team is like super safe. Like Arrowell is there as a panic button. If you need to strip, you can soul burn it and it can get 15%, but like hopefully it doesn't. But even with soul burn attack buff S3 on a death broken B, it only does 80k, which is apparently not enough, which is kind of depressing. But thanks to all the prophetic candlesticks on Ice Area, we're able to just cycle quickly. And Queen should be like pretty easy. Like once you're here, you're basically done. And if you can substitute out Landy or Stenny in one of the other comps, like this becomes just a lot faster in general. And I forgot that Arrow needs Soul Burn to guarantee 2 things are stripped, so we eat a counterattack for fun. But since we kill the bees, like it's not that hard, and even though our Arrow is on pretty junky gear, we're in no danger of dying like ever until near the end, but that's because of like a separate issue. Another fun thing about Arrow is that she does offer some sustain thanks to these shields that I forgot she puts up when she S3s. We soul burn LQC just to help her cycle. You know how it is. We soul burn, we bomb one of the bees. I think I should have just S3'd the Queen because I think the splash would have killed, but I didn't want to risk it. And now we're just able to press S3 on the Queen. The Queen will cleanse it when she phases, but she's just gonna hit us so much that like Candlestick's bound to help us, you know? And Isirius S2 is an extra turn, so it helps us cycle. So I'm not too mad about that. We S1 with LQC. We still haven't phased because, oh my god. We're just doing this really slowly. It's fine. We S2 to sustain the team. Like, we don't want to go into idle form before half because she does the attack she does to start. And if you don't have Tama S3 up, you're kind of dead. Because this team doesn't really have a good form of cleanse outside of Tama S3. But we're just going to speed it up. Blah, 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 blah. You don't want to bother hitting these other 2 spiders anymore because you can't kill them. They just get stunned for 1 turn and resurrect at a full HP. So what we're going for in this phase is we want to keep the buff off of the Queen at all times. We want to try and go for LQC S3s once Ice Area Death Breaks and stuff, but like the tuning just doesn't work out, so I get greedy and hold it. But I forget that this Queen now like cleanses a lot of debuffs and she's stripped, so it's like very unlikely that we're going to get a full attack buff and stuff going. So I should have just ripped LQC S3 with Soul Burn to begin with in the last turn to speed it up, but I made a mistake, so you don't have to. But we just go for it here. We could have done it last turn, but we basically used 30 souls for fun when we didn't have to. And we just hit down the Queen. But things can get dicey here just because her attack like lower ER and defense and stuff. So you don't want to stay in this phase too long just because like eventually you will get ground down. But even this low damage LQC has more than enough damage to kill this Queen, so there's nothing to worry about. Arrowell strips, and we just hit the boss. And we hold S3. The dual attack on Iceria would have been really nice before I did this, but see how like with the reduced ER, we're actually getting speed down to stick on our Tamarin? That really sucks for us. And because of El's Fist, my LQC tuning is like atrocious here. And I don't want to get countered, so I'm forced to continuously hit LQC into the little mobs. So if you were to do this, like none of you guys have a French LQC built anyway, so like just use your regular LQC. Like it works so much better for speed tuning. I just wanted to make a point by using my French LQC. It doesn't matter though, because I think I get desperate here because things are getting dicey just because my LQC tuning is bad. So our team almost dies, but luckily Tamarin's here to save the day with their cleanses and stuff. So I get really tired of these cockroaches and decide I'm gonna go and stun one of them just so I can get a defense break to stick on the boss for more than one turn. And then hopefully DPS down the boss from there. And so we go for the Ice Area strip. We kind of have to pray that just doesn't counter so the spiders don't go sicko mode on us. And so the death breaks land. We have arrow S3, so we actually go for the stun on the other spider, so there's going to be no cleansing of any sort. And that's why I think arrow is like BIS. Like you can use theyre and stuff for like the emergency strip or whatever, but like look at how much sustain arrow provides for the team. And all she requires is your PvP build on an F ring. Queen S1s cleanses stuff, which is really annoying, but these LQC S1s look like they just need one more LQC S1 with attack buff to actually kill the queen. And so we're good. We S1 the spider for some reason. But like these things don't push up. You could safely S1 the queen, but I just do it for fun. We S1 the queen and we're finally done Hell Raid. She enters her enrage phase, but like all our stuff has way too much HP to actually die. Except for Errol because of escort, and she will die because I'm greedy and hold on to my cooldowns, but in theory nothing should die here. You can even LQCS3 to get some sustain if you have to, but I don't want to watch cooldowns more than I have to, even though I'm pressing cooldowns as we speak. I press S3 to land unbuffable on the boss because I think that prevents her from living longer, but I think the buff just falls off after one turn anyway. I should S3 here to cleanse off the bleeds and then heal, but I do not. I could also press S3 here with Arrow to give myself a barrier, but I do not. So Arrow dies, but whatever. We're basically done. I could go out and finish off the map, but at this point I'm over it. I don't want to do this anymore. We just exit, and do we get another bad piece from Hell Raid? Of course we do. We get one of the worst pieces you can get from Queen. Like, what is this piece? Who's gonna use it? We immediately sell it. NT. And we did get enough Moonlight Summons, so hopefully we're gonna get something good. Oh, another 3-star. We love FX7. But it's fine. We're gonna go back to Hell Raid, and we're able to purchase a Hell Raid piece. So we do buy a necklace, and we have maximum faith because we're giving back to the community by posting a guide for PvP bozos. And are you rewarded? Kind of. If it didn't low roll an attack, like if it got like 1 or 2% more in attack, I think this piece is really good, but like we'll take it. Anyway, this video has been going on forever. If you've been watching to this whole point, thank you. Like and subscribe. And if you don't want to do all the bosses, or you don't have the teams for some of them, you can do normal mode for 1 or 2 of them, and you'll still have enough currency to buy 1 piece every month. So life hack. Catch you next time.